we're going to start by talking about meditation in general. This is probably the first time for a lot of you, right? So we'll just kind of introduce meditation, how we do it, kind of why it works, the kind of thought behind it. And then we're going to talk about a specific topic after that, right? And we'll do like a meditation in between each of these. But our topic for today is something that I like to kind of bring back into the circulation of these live streams every so often. And it's all about mindfulness and talking about what this word means, because it's become kind of buzzwordy, right? So we hear it all over the place. So we might not really know, like, oh yeah, mindfulness, this and that. What does it actually mean, right? So we'll talk about that, and then we'll look at why you should even consider wanting to be mindful, right? Maybe we never thought about that. We're like, I guess I should do this. Why? So we'll talk about why, and then we'll talk about what you can do to kind of start training in this. Dell, Janelle, Marina, Margaret, welcome. Some veterans here. My name's Keith. So if you're new, that's my name. And I've been a meditation teacher for, over a decade. It's helped me a lot. So I'm glad that you're here. Hopefully you'll find it to be relaxing and enjoyable. Please ask questions. This is kind of the cool thing about the live stream format. I'm here virtually, right? But it's live. So you can ask me questions if you're like, that makes absolutely no sense. I don't know what you're talking about. You could just type in the chat, Keith, that makes absolutely no sense. I don't know what you're talking about. And I'll try to clarify it. So if you have any questions, you can just ask me at any time. It doesn't even have to be about what I'm talking about. Just ask. And if you're not comfortable or you think of something after class is over, I'll put my email in the chat towards the end. And you can email me at any time as well. Jacqueline, welcome. Jacqueline is new. She's going to have a great time. Oh, I love seltzer. All right. So let's get into meditation as a whole, right? Let's just introduce it. So what do we think meditation is? It's an interesting question, all right? What is mindfulness? Rob, we're going to find out. That's today's topic. Clever question. So meditation is very often kind of thought of together with relaxation, right? Kind of just blocking things out, or I don't know, zoning out, just kind of chilling, relaxing. And there's a component of meditation that is relaxing, and it's actually a really important component. Well, we're going to focus on that for the first part of our class, but there's more to it than that. Meditation is actually a technique in familiarization. What does that mean, right? So we're familiar with a lot of things, right? We know how to tie our shoe, we know how to walk, we know how to drive a car, right? And all these things come pretty naturally to us at this point in our life, right? It wasn't always that way. You probably can't remember when you were first learning to walk, but it probably didn't look very graceful. Right? You were just stumbling all over the place as a little kid, right? But through familiarizing ourself with the mechanics of walking becomes easier, right? Becomes more natural to us. By familiarizing ourselves with the mechanics of tying our shoe becomes pretty natural. We can do it without even thinking about anything right now, right? So familiarization plays a huge role in our life. And the exact same technique that we would use to train our body or train in driving or anything, learn anything, we can use that to train our mind. Right? So meditation is kind of using this technique of familiarizing our mind to help with emotions, feelings. That's mainly what we're focusing on, right? So we can use meditation to become more patient, right? Patience is kind of a state of mind, right? Or we can use it to help with our anxiety. Anxiety is a state of mind. We can use it with gratitude or kindness to ourselves and others. So there's really countless things that you can do, but the techniques to do them is all the same, right? We're training and familiarizing ourselves with some sort of concept, right? So if we take relaxation, because that's the most common one, right? Meditation isn't just spawning relaxation. It's teaching us to become familiar with our ability to be relaxed. We have this calmness, this ability to be relaxed in us, right? We see it every once in a while. We're like super calm and cool and happy and relaxed, right? And so it's in there, and meditation is teaching us to become so familiar with accessing it that what happens? It becomes more natural, right? It becomes easier for us to go there, just as the same as learning to walk, the same as tying a shoe or anything like that. It's the exact same concept, right? Hey, you do mindfulness every day. Wow, you're ahead of the game here. Great. That's awesome. So hopefully that kind of makes sense as a tiny little introduction, right? So in order to use meditation to its kind of full effect, right, we do have to be relaxed, right? Because when we're not relaxed, and you don't need me to tell you this, right? What happens when you're anxious, right? You're worrying about things that normally you wouldn't worry about, right? What about when you're angry? Things are bothering you that normally wouldn't bother you, right? So when our mind is agitated or busy, distracted, stressed, anxious, whatever it is, it's kind of operating on its own terms, right? And so we got to reel it in a little bit. We're going fishing, right? We got to reel it in a little bit to relax our mind. And then once our mind is kind of relaxed, well, we can choose to do something cool with our mind, right? So we can use our relaxed mind to think about something with a little more clarity. That's kind of what we're getting at, right? So the analogy I love to use, sorry if you've heard it a million times, definitely not a million times, I've been doing this that long, but the analogy I love to use to kind of illustrate this is if you imagine you're at a still lake, right? Still body of water, very, very peaceful. There's no wind, there's no rain. It's a beautiful day. And I say, hey, can you see the reflection in the lake? And you're like, absolutely. Here's the mountains, and here's the flowers, and there's a tree, right? You can see the reflection in the lake very clearly because things are still, right? Now, if the wind kicks up a little bit, starts to rain, right, ruining your little excursion a bit, what happens to that reflection, right? Gets a little less clear, right? And if it really starts to downpour and kind of really gusts winds, we might not be able to see or describe that reflection at all, right? So our mind is the same way. By default, our mind is like a still lake, very calm, very peaceful, very cool and collected, right? Very serene, right? Happy. All of the stress, anxiety, bombardment of distractions, thoughts, kind of unwanted thoughts that are bouncing, into our mind all day long, they are like raindrops, right? And just like raindrops are making it hard for us to see the reflection, these kind of stress raindrops are making it hard for us to access this relaxed, still state, right? So meditation is kind of like a two-step process, right? First, we want to clear out some of those raindrops, right? Then when there's no more raindrops, right, or there's less raindrops, then we can look at the reflection, right? So we want to relax our mind a little bit, and then we want to use that relaxed mind to investigate something, to look at something, to analyze something, to become familiar with it. That's meditation. Jacqueline, you like that example? Oh, this is your first time. You're going to hear that a lot more. You come back. I like that one too. I think it works well. Okay, so step one, we got to relax a little bit, right? How do we do this? We're going to do breathing meditation. You probably heard of that before. Probably the most common form of meditation, right? And more formally, we can think about this as single-pointed concentration. Kind of a fancy little phrase there. And all that means is focusing on one thing. Single-pointedly concentrating. That's hard. Why? We don't do that often. We are very familiar with multitasking, thinking about as many things as possible, processing countless things at the same time, right? We're not as familiar with choosing to focus on one thing and then, trying to not be distracted by that, right? We kind of just let our mind do what it wants. So we're going to use our breath as our focal point, our single pointed concentration focal point, right? And using the breath is really a great technique. This is why it's taught pretty much as like a preliminary meditation, because your breath's always with you, right? And that's our goal here. Our goal here is to give you some tools that you can use out in your actual life. The goal isn't for you to, once a month just come and watch me talk about something and then it like goes out the other ear, right? We want to practice it. We want to make this something that can work for us in our life. So if we become proficient at using our breath to relax, well, we start to feel empowered that we can use this technique wherever we are, right? In whatever situation we are. We don't need perfect quiet. We don't need to retreat to a mountaintop. We don't need to leave all of our friends for a month. We don't need to do any of that. All we need is just a little bit of time, patience, and our breath. And we can learn to relax and become more familiar with relaxing, right? I do breath, do dish, and mindfulness group every day on Friday. That's incredible. All right. Well, you're adding Wednesday onto that. Okay. So we're going to do a breathing meditation now. And if you have never done a breathing meditation before, instructionally it's pretty simple, right? You're just going to kind of listen to what I'm saying. And we're going to try to focus single pointedly on our breath and the sensations of breathing. And then whenever you notice that your mind is like wandering, right? We're going to be like, no, not right now. I'm focused on my breath. We're just going to bring our attention back. That's it. That's the process. Sometimes we think meditation is not thinking about anything. No, your mind's going to think. That's what it does. It means it's working. Meditation is making a choice to focus on one thing, noticing when your attention drifts, and being able to bring it back to the thing you want to focus on, right? So we're going to do that right now. Step 1, make sure you're relatively comfortable, right? So if you're sitting in a chair, great. If you're sitting on a cushion on the floor, great. If you're laying down, that's also great. Everything is great. You don't have to change anything about what you're doing, right? You don't have to change anything about what you're doing to meditate well. There's no like perfect thing. Everyone has different seating arrangements that is comfortable. But we want to be comfortable because otherwise we're going to be distracted because we're going to be thinking about how uncomfortable you are. So try to be comfortable. And you can go ahead and close your eyes, and we're going to do about a 5-minute breathing meditation. So just kind of follow along with what I'm saying, okay? Whenever we start a meditation, the first thing we always do is check in with ourselves. Ask yourself, how am I feeling right now? Maybe this is a little strange. We don't often check in with ourselves. But there's a good reason why. And we're going to learn about that today. But right now, we're just noticing how we're feeling. Happy, sad, tired, energetic. Doesn't matter. All that matters is you notice. Just take note of how you are feeling right now. And having done that, you can now turn your full attention to your breath, breathing in and out of your nose very gently and very naturally. You do not need to take big, deep breaths or forcefully exhale the air. Just breathe normally, in and out. See if you can follow each moment of your breath. Follow the air as it enters your nose, sits, and then exits as you exhale. Breathing in and out very gently and very naturally. Following each moment of your breath as you begin to relax into your chair or cushion. Now, at some point, you may notice that your attention is no longer exclusively focused on your breath. Maybe you're thinking about something that happened earlier in the day. Or maybe you're thinking about something that's coming up later, something you have to do after class. Whenever you notice that your mind has drifted a bit, we're just gently going to bring our attention back to our breath. Make a choice to bring your attention back to focusing on breathing in and out, very gently and very naturally. Stay with your breath for your entire inhale. Stay with your breath for your entire exhale. And allow yourself to relax even more into your chair or cushion. Keep bringing your attention back to your breath whenever you notice that it has drifted. This process of choosing to focus single-pointedly on your breath, noticing when your attention drifts, and being skillful enough to bring your attention back to your breath, that is meditation. You are meditating right now. You are training your mind to be calm, relaxed, to access its natural, peaceful state. And you're doing it all on your own, with nothing other than your breath. How wonderful. What a great use of your time. So just continue to breathe in and out gently, naturally for a little while longer. Allow yourself to enjoy sitting here in this moment. Okay, and when you're ready, you can open your eyes. How'd that go? Maybe if it was your first time, you're like, oh, that was kind of challenging, right? And it really shouldn't be that surprising if it is, because when do you ever do this? Never, right? So when you never do something and then you try to do it, usually it doesn't come naturally to us. But all that takes is practice, right? All that takes is just becoming familiar, making your mind become familiar with focusing on one thing and actually kind of seeing some of the benefits of doing that. So your mind's like, yeah, no, I don't want to think about a million things. I want to think about one thing, right? It's too hot. Yeah, it's pretty hot. You're not kidding. It's pretty hot. Hopefully you're staying relatively cool. All right, you guys, that was good. Jacqueline, that was difficult for you. So when you're new, so I always like to say this because a meditation teacher from long ago said this to me once, and I'm passing it on. A lot of times when we start meditating, we actually feel that our mind is busier when we're meditating, right? I had that feeling, right? And really what's happening is you are just now beginning to see what your mind is doing all day long, right? Left to its own devices, our mind is scattered. It's thinking about a million things at once, right? And so when we're like, hey, I got a great idea, mind, you're going to focus on one thing. Our mind's like, no, I'm not going to do that because I don't do that, right? So it just takes practice, right? Baby steps, right? Maybe you're only able to keep your attention on your breath for a minute, maybe 30 seconds, maybe 2 seconds, doesn't matter, right? You can build on that, right? It'll eventually become easier, just like learning how to walk or learning how to tie your shoe, right? Great. blissful, felt good, didn't wander off as much as usual. Pam, there you go. That's great. Progress, right? Amazing. Margaret, not sure if this can be an outcome of meditation, but starting, I just realized that when I start feeling rushed and stressed, I increasingly say to myself that it's nothing that can't wait. That's amazing. And that's a really great real world kind of application of what we're training in with meditation, Margaret, right? So when we're meditating, what are we doing? We're like, okay, I'm going to make a choice. I'm in charge, not my mind. I'm in charge. I'm going to choose to focus on my breath, right? And then when our mind wanders, we're like, no, that can wait, right? Right now, I'm focusing on my breath. So what you're doing is a real world application of this meditation technique. It's awesome. Really cool. Gail, I feel so good when I make it to your live stream during, after, and even. Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. Thank you. Right? I wish I could do them more. Maybe I should. I don't know. Yeah, Margaret, that was great. That was great. After a day of PT and classes, I relaxed enough, almost fell asleep. Hey, that's cool. Getting tired while meditating is pretty common. It's not the worst thing in the world, right? We do want to be relatively awake because we're actively doing stuff, but hey, I don't know. Good meditation is a great way to fall asleep, right? That's sometimes people use meditation to help with trouble sleeping, right? So it's a way of relaxing us, cooling our mind a little bit, right? All right, cool. Let's move on to our topic for today. If you do have any other questions, just type away, all right? So today we're going to talk about mindfulness, which is we hear it everywhere. You don't even need to tell you that, right? There's mindful eating, there's mindful drinking. People are like, oh, you should be more mindful. We're like, okay, why? I don't even know what that means, right? So what is mindfulness? If you had to define it. Probably heard a lot of little definitions, blips. Maybe awareness. That comes up a lot. Being present, that comes up a lot, right? Those are truth. Oh, that's deep. I like that. That's beautiful, actually. So all of these kind of ways we describe mindfulness, they're all right, really, right? But there's something that sometimes gets missing, right? Being in the present, Marina says, like that's a very common one. And it is absolutely true. We're going to talk about that. But sometimes there's something that gets kind of lost in there, right? So I like to define mindfulness, right, as being intentionally aware of your own thoughts moment to moment. Being intentionally aware of your own thoughts moment to moment. For the purpose of, and this is the part that sometimes we don't really think about, right? For the purpose of dealing with things more skillfully, right? Finding some truth, right? Like Chaya said. Am I saying that name right? I hope so. Essentially, we want to intentionally be mindful for the purpose of being able to be more available to others, more available to ourselves, just be a better version of you, right? Great. Mindfulness is to be fully present in the present. Yeah, that is part of it. Yeah, that is definitely part of it. Observing without judging. That's a cool one, Patrick. That's great. These are all wonderful, right? So one of these kind of hidden components of mindfulness is intention, right? And we're not going to talk about that too much, but intention is extremely important. I like to think about intention as like our compass, right? So now a compass doesn't tell you exactly the path you need to go, right? But it reminds you the direction that you want to head. So intention, if we set an intention, maybe our intention is to try to practice some mindfulness, to be aware of our own thoughts. That way we can deal with some of the maybe negative mind states that are popping up a little more skillfully, right? If we kind of set that intention, then if we kind of get off course a little bit, our memory starts to kick in, right? Oh, yeah. I'm practicing mindfulness, right? So there's a kind of a hidden component there that is good to think about when we're thinking about mindfulness, right? So why should we even practice mindfulness? This is another thing that doesn't really get talked about a lot, right? So, we have these kind of definitions of mindfulness. Being present, right? Being aware. But we don't know why, right? We don't really know why. We hear a lot of people say we should do it, and we're like, okay, I get it, but I don't really understand internalized why, right? What are the benefits? Right? Understanding the benefits of something is really important for effort, right? If you totally understand the benefits of something, like totally believe them without a doubt, what happens? You're going to do it, right? So thinking about some of the benefits of mindfulness might help us motivate or kind of be encouraged to practice it and see if it can help us, right? So we're going to talk about 3 benefits of mindfulness, right? And the first one is very important and very useful, and I like to call it the early detection system, the EDS. That's the abbreviation, right? So anger, anxiety, jealousy, all of these feelings that we have, right? I like to compare them to fires, right? Now, a fire starts with a little flame, and then what happens? That flame spreads, right? Anxiety starts with a little thought, a little worry, and what happens? We ruminate on it, and that worry spreads. Anger, somebody says something to us that we don't like, right? Then we think about it a lot. We start to think about how terrible that person is, right? It spreads, right? So the problem isn't that we're not noticing that we're anxious or angry, but we're noticing too late, right? So if we were, let's say we were kind of walking along in a field and we saw a little flame, we had a cup of water, we just dumped the water on the flame, boom, there's no problem, right? But if we were not aware that this was happening, the fire will spread, right? So the earlier we kind of catch wind of what our mind is up to, the easier it is to manage these feelings, right? And anxiety is a really good example of that, right? Sometimes I like to call it skillful reaction, right? So this kind of goes back to our definition of mindfulness, right? A moment-to-moment awareness of our thoughts for the purpose of being able to respond skillfully, right? I also like to sometimes think about it as like like a siren. You probably know what a siren is. Like a tornado warning siren. We don't really have tornadoes out here where I am, but I know the siren, right? And when you hear that siren, you're like, oh, tornado, right? I better prepare for what seems to be coming, right? Now, the siren doesn't eliminate the tornado, right? But it gives you an opportunity to respond skillfully to what might be coming, right? So mindfulness is sort of like our little tornado warning system. It's not going to stop anxiety from cropping up. It's not going to stop anger from cropping up, but it is going to give us the opportunity to deal with it in a more manageable way than we probably are now, right? So that's a really wonderful benefit of mindfulness. Let me catch up here. Increased health, decreased stress, emotional regulation. Yeah, those are all good ones. Jacqueline, oh my goodness, yes, this happens to me. I notice it and I can feel it. I know it's building, but I can't stop myself letting it get bigger. Yeah. So part of the reason is that when you're noticing it and you're like, it's building, it's already spread a little bit. So we got to essentially, we want to just take an interest in what our mind is doing moment to moment, right? That's why we did a check-in with ourselves at the beginning of the meditation. Why? We're getting used to seeing what our mind is up to so that we can catch things early enough to then use some of the other skills we'll learn in meditation to combat those feelings. Cool? So like mindfulness is kind of like our first line of defense, really, for some of our negative mind states, right? Cool. So another really awesome benefit of mindfulness is it gives us choice. essentially it gives us the choice of what we want to think about, right? So we've heard about being present a lot, right? This is the time we're going to talk about it. So right now, it kind of, if we think about it, if we're honest with ourselves, it kind of seems like our mind is doing whatever it wants and we're along for the ride, right? Like your mind is like, hey, you should think about that thing somebody said to you 3 years ago that really bothered you. We're like, okay, I won't think about that. It's getting me angry. I'm not enjoying it. And then your mind's like, hey, no, let's think about that project that you got coming up next week that you're really worried about. You're like, okay, I guess I'll think about that and get really worried, right? Our mind seems to be in charge, right? So mindfulness gives us the opportunity to kind of take back ownership of our thoughts, of our own thoughts, right? Oh, well, Ivy says I'm on the wrong side of the Denver metro area to have to deal with tornadoes. I know. We have the fires over here, right? So, where is our mind normally? It's a weird question, actually, right? Like this is a good kind of way to unearth what we're kind of getting at here, right? So if we think about it, our mind is almost always thinking about the past or the future, right? Like, how often do you think about something that happened in the past? The thing I just said is in the past. Now you're thinking about that. So you're thinking about it in the past, right? All the time. Something somebody said, a regret that we have, maybe a conversation. We're like recalling that, recalling like a song. I mean, all this stuff, right? What about the future? How often do you find yourself thinking about an event that's coming up, or kind of what if, right? The what ifs. All the time. Janelle says she's 20 years in the future. That's far out. But very common, right? Very common to be kind of trapped in the past or in the future, right? So if your mind, we're establishing that our mind is very often in the past or in the future. So if your mind is in the past or the future, where isn't it? It's not in the present moment. We can only focus on one thing, right? We can't like have our mind be split, even though we'd like to think that we can, right? Multitasking is not doing things at the same time. It's doing one thing and then constantly switching our focus, right? Back and forth, being very scattered. So if our mind can't be in two places at once, so if it's in the past or in the future, it's not in the present. We're very rarely kind of living in this present moment, right? So this does not mean that you shouldn't think about the past or the future, right? It's extremely beneficial to think about things that have happened in the past or things that are coming up in the future to plan, right? But you should be able to make that choice. And this is what mindfulness does for us. We detect early that maybe we're getting anxious. Let's use that as an example. We detect early that we're getting anxious. Feelings of anxiety are starting to come up about this event that I have to go to, right? Where's my mind, right? My mind is in the future. It's thinking about this event, right? Do I want to think about this event, right? Or do I want to focus on what's going on right now in front of me, right? It's our choice, but we should have that choice. Right now, it doesn't feel like we have that choice, right? So the kind of early warning system and this, they're kind of like paired a little bit, right? So we're detecting that our mind is in the past or in the future early, and then we're making a choice of if we want to be there. Oh, someone's talking about The Alchemist. Great book. The Alchemist taught me to live in the present, but that's what I'm having trouble with because I'm always thinking about the past and the future. I'm a planner. Yeah. So if you are a planner, then the future, your mind is like always in the future, right? Alchemist is a great book. So this, just like anything else, takes practice, right? Because Jacqueline, right? If you're saying I'm always thinking about the past or the future, right? Always, right? That's a lot of practice of thinking about the past and the future. Not a lot of practice thinking about the present, right? So doesn't mean that you're not capable of doing that. All it means is your mind is more familiar, there's that word, familiarity, more familiar with thinking about the past or the future than the present. But you can change that by training your mind to stay present, right? Mindfulness is a great way of helping you do that, achieve that, right? Great. Great comment. So the third thing I wanted to just mention about mindfulness is it's a kind of secret ingredient for finding joy. You might not really think about it like that, but when we are present, we start to kind of notice some things that we wouldn't otherwise notice, right? So like, let's say you're going on a walk, right? I'm going to go walk down the street to the store, I don't know, to my mailbox or something. I don't know, whatever. You're going on a walk, right? So sometimes that we're going on a walk, right? And we're like, oh man, I hear the birds chirping, or like, we like feel the wind like hitting our skin. We're like totally plugged into the things that are going on when we're walking, right? We've had that experience, right? But there's been other times that we go for a walk and we're planning, right? We're thinking about that thing that's coming up later, or we're thinking about something that happened earlier in the day that we didn't like, or something like that, right? And what happens is our mind is in the past or the future and not on the present walk, and so we miss some of the little joys that come from walking, seeing the leaves blow in the breeze. The leaves of the trees blow in the breeze. People talking, people hugging in the street. Like it's happening all the time. We just don't notice that it's happening because our mind is elsewhere, right? So mindfulness these three benefits are kind of linked, right? So we are detecting early, right, that our mind is drifting, right? Normally we don't even notice, so our mind just does whatever it wants. So we detect early, right? And then we're like, do I want to be thinking about this? I want to be thinking about the walk. I want to enjoy this walk right now. That's it, right? And then we are enjoying this walk, and what is happening? We are noticing all these cool, wonderful, fascinating, interesting things about the world around us as we're walking, right? We're finding joy in a simple activity, right? Sometimes it's compared to being like a child at play, right? If you think about a kid playing with like a wooden train, the train doesn't even have wheels. It's just a block of wood, right? But the child is so present with that block of wood that not everything else is gone, right? This is a train, it's a hat, I'm eating it, right? They're so interested in this object that they're finding the object interesting, right? This is a kind of a cool thing about our mind, is we often think that the activity is what, whoa, I just punched my microphone. We think that the activity is what is interesting, right? But our mind needs to be invested, present with the activity to be able to find the hidden interest in it. It's a different way of thinking, but pretty cool, right? And mindfulness really helps us start to see this out in the wild, so to speak. Cool? Pretty cool. Let me catch up here. I check in on what needs to be done for next week once a day. Great. I check in on what I need to do tomorrow once a day. Great. The rest of the time I'm working on what needs to be done right now. That's great. That's a great method. Being in my senses and doing creative things helps me think a lot, right? Marina, that's a really, really insightful comment, right? So meditation isn't just about sitting down and breathing, right? We can meditate doing anything, walking, eating, painting, right? And we see this in some of these creative things that we're doing, right? So I'm just going to say painting. I don't paint, but I'm just going to say painting. So when you see somebody painting, right, they're totally plugged into the painting. They're not like, actually, I wanted to call so-and-so. No, they're like totally plugged into the painting, right? Super present with the activity. Essentially, they're meditating while painting, right? So that's really a great thing to take note of, Marina, because that is you meditating with kind of worldly activities, which is really fantastic. I wish I was taught this early. Gail says, I wish I was taught this early on. Time to have a children's program. I have taught children before. They're great. Yeah, I do wish this was taught more. It's becoming more common. But we're taught a lot of things in school and growing up, but understanding how our own mind works sometimes gets left off the menu. But hey, better late than never, right? Okay, cool. So those three things, just review quick: early detection, right? Remember the fire example, right? Then choosing where we want our mind to be. Do I want to be thinking about the past or the future, right? And then if we're bringing our mind into the present, enjoying that, right? Noticing some of the little joys that come out of that, right? Great. Del, I've heard that doing creative things help with anxiety, and I can see why by what you said about painting. Yes, and maybe I'll do this next week. I don't know if I did it recently, but I teach an entire class about ways you can meditate that aren't you sitting down and breathing, right? So like doing things like painting or walking or eating or drinking, right? This is something that we don't normally associate with meditation, but it's the same exact thing. Let's take the walk, for example, right? I'm going to go on a walk, right? I'm making a choice. I'm going to go on a walk and I'm going to focus on my walk and nothing else. And I'm walking, right? And then I notice that I start to worry about that thing that I got to do later. And I'm like, nope, not right now. I'm walking. What is that? It's meditation. It's the exact same thing we did with our breath, right? Choose to focus on our breath. Notice when it drifts, bring it back. That's it. It's the same technique. We are training our mind to focus on one thing, right? Carol, I did the glass of water, but it was some time ago. Carol, thank you. Carol is like my archivist. She knows exactly when my last class I did that was. All right, maybe we'll do that next week. That's a fun one. Cool. Class on meditating while doing other things. All right, Dell wants it. Dell's getting it. That's it. It's set in stone. Okay, so those are the benefits. Awesome. Those sound great. Let's get motivated to do that, right? How do we do it, right? One of the awesome things about meditation is you're practicing mindfulness, right? So when we're doing a simple breathing meditation, right, we're making a choice. We're focusing on our breath. Then we got a little warning symbol, right? A little warning siren whenever our attention drifts, right? A little mindfulness spy. And we're like, hey, my mind's drifting off into something else, right? And then we're going to bring it back to the present moment, breathing. And we're going to start to enjoy breathing, right? Okay. So meditation, you're practicing mindfulness. It's like 2-for-1 deal. It's great. Everyone loves 2-for-1. When we're not meditating, a good way of practicing mindfulness is setting an alarm on your phone. And when that alarm goes off, you stop what you're doing as long as it's safe to do so, and you just check in with yourself. Remember, we did that at the beginning of our meditation. We just checked in, right? Get used to taking an interest in what your mind is up to. So we can ask ourselves, how have I been feeling? Have I been anxious, right? Have I been thinking a lot about the past or the future? Or what have I been doing, right? And then a third thing we can do is I think what we'll focus on next week is picking a routine to really plug into, right? So like if we're brushing our teeth, this is a good one, right? Brushing our teeth. When you're brushing your teeth, you're not thinking about brushing your teeth. You're thinking about everything else, but you're not thinking about brushing your teeth. So what if every time you brushed your teeth, you're like, okay, for the 2 minutes that I brush my teeth, I'm going to focus on the sensations of brushing my teeth and nothing else. And when I notice that I'm thinking about something else, I'm going to bring my attention back to focusing on brushing my teeth. Boom. You just turned brushing your teeth into meditation. It's great. Easy. Easier said than done, especially with brushing your teeth. I'm always thinking all over the place there. But that's a good little teaser. We'll do that next week. That's good. I do a lot of meditation, taking some place I relax. Yes, absolutely. Both kind of mentally, and sometimes it's helpful to be in a calming setting, right? If you have that ability, right? Awesome. Okay, so that's all I want to talk about today for mindfulness, but I would like to do just another short meditation. We're going to do a breathing meditation, but we're going to kind of, now that we're aware of these three kind of benefits of mindfulness, we're going to start to kind of see how they are being used in our breathing meditation. So you're just doing the same thing, but I might add in a little flair, right, to kind of illuminate some of the things we've been talking about and how we're actually practicing it when we meditate. Sound good? All right, cool. So once again, sit comfortably. If you did not like your seating arrangement, go ahead and change that up quick. All right, I'll take a sip of my seltzer while I wait for that. It's flat and warm. It's not great. Okay. Close your eyes. We're going to do about a 5-minute breathing meditation with an emphasis on mindfulness. All right? Okay. Let's check in with ourselves once again. How are you feeling now? Different than before? The same? Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. We're just noticing. And we now know why we're doing this. We are beginning to familiarize ourselves with taking an interest in what our mind is up to moment. Mindfulness. For the purpose of being able to deal with our thoughts in a more skillful manner. And that starts with noticing what your mind is up to. So just check in. And you can now once again turn your full attention to your breath. Make a choice. I am going to focus on my breath for the next couple of minutes. And that's it. Breathing in and out through your nose very gently and very naturally. Following each moment of each breath, each moment of each inhale, each moment of each exhale, fully present with your breath. And we can check in with ourselves once again. Right? We can use our technique of mindfulness. Where is your mind? Is it still on your breath? Has it drifted a bit? Is it thinking about something that happened earlier in the past, or something coming up later in the future? Whenever you notice that your attention has drifted into one of these areas, we're just gently going to put those thoughts aside and bring your attention back to the present moment, breathing in and out very gently and very naturally. Following your entire in-breath, following your entire out-breath. When we single-pointedly concentrate on something, like our breath in this instance, we may start to notice some little things about our breath that we didn't notice before. Maybe some sensations about breathing. How the air, it feels cool temperature-wise as we breathe in. How interesting. And that same air, it feels a bit warmer each time we breathe out. How interesting. Or maybe we're noticing how our body moves as we breathe, our shoulders rising as we breathe in, falling as we breathe out. our chest expanding, contracting, our entire body being an active participant in breathing, a sense of oneness between our body, our mind, and our breath. How interesting. When you choose to be present with something, you find these hidden joys. You are now learning to enjoy something as simple as breathing in and out. How wonderful. How wonderful that you can find happiness, peacefulness, pleasure in something so simple as breathing in and out. So just for the next couple of seconds, just enjoy sitting here in this moment. Whatever you're feeling, whatever you're noticing, just enjoy being here. Okay, and when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Hopefully that was relaxing. It is the same structure, right, as what we did last time. Very simple breathing meditation, not too long, right? Very manageable. But now we start to see, we're doing some of these things while we breathe, right? While we're meditating on our breath, right? We have the early detection system, right? Because we're noticing when our attention drifts. Now, we might not notice right away, but we practice. We'll get better at it, right? And then we're noticing if our mind's in the past or in the future, right? And we're like, do I want to be thinking about that? In this case, no, we want to be thinking about our breath. So we bring it back to the present moment. And what happens when we do that successfully? We start to notice some little joys about breathing. Right? So those three benefits of mindfulness, they are intimately wrapped in all meditations, right? That's why meditation is such a great way. We're getting so many things done at once. It's awesome. We're training our mind in so many wonderful ways. Oh my God, why do I keep punching my microphone? What am I doing? Okay, so hopefully that was enjoyable, both the meditation and watching me throw haymakers at my microphone. If you did have a good experience, please come back. We do this every week, barring some unforeseen event. And every week we talk about a different topic, though I've promised Dale that we will do the kind of activity-based meditations, right? And next week. So that's what we'll talk about next week. And maybe bring a friend or something. I don't know. It's kind of a cool thing to do with friends, right? And if you want, you can subscribe to this YouTube channel. That helps me out a lot. And with one click of the button, now you get notified whenever I'm going live with a meditation. So, if you forget, you're like, oh, it's Wednesday. Yeah, you get a little notification to remind you. It's meditation time, right? And all these videos are available on my YouTube channel for you to watch if you miss a class or if you want to browse at some of the old stuff. See how I looked when I was a little younger, right? You can go scroll all the way back. And then lastly, I teach one-on-one classes, right? That's my main component of my meditation business. So if that is something interesting to you, you're like, hey, this is really cool. I'd love to focus on anxiety because that's what I'm really here for. Or I'd love to focus on getting better sleep because that's what I'm here for. Whatever it is, right? We're all here for different reasons. We can focus exclusively on that. So I do these one-on-one classes on Zoom virtually, unless you happen to be in Colorado, then we can do it live. So if that is interesting to you, just email me. I will put my email in the chat now, and I will say it. It is keith@meditationbreaks.com. Oh, did I spell it right? You can never be sure. Okay. that is my email. So just email me if you want to do any one-on-ones. I also do stuff with work. So I've had some people bring me into their office. That's great. All right. So we can do that too. I do that virtually as well. So just email me. We'll figure out something cool. Okay. Wow. I got to catch up. Gail, thank you. Thank you guys. Seriously, thank you guys for being here because I love teaching and I couldn't do it without you. So thank you. Carol, another wonderful Wednesday. I like it. Chaya, thank you for being here. Ivy, thank you for being here. Marina, Pam, Gene. Oh, first time, Gene. I'm glad you had a good experience. I hope you come back. It's really a cool. This is a great community. Obviously, look at it. Like everyone's so awesome. I love you guys. Jacqueline, love the way you interact. You're not serious as most people I've seen, and I love that about you. Plan on coming back. Thank you. And thank you for subscribing. I really appreciate that. Yeah, that's kind of my thing. You know, I have been trained by a number of meditation teachers, and a lot of them are a little kind of out there, you know. I'm just a normal person, right? And meditation is for everybody, right? And I think that sometimes we think it's like kind of like weird or like mystical or something. Like, no, it's just thinking. We're just thinking. We're using our mind, right? So I'm glad that's coming through because that's kind of that was my goal with starting this, to make meditation accessible for people like us. Cool. Margaret. Oh yeah, Margaret, I work with one-on-one. Thank you, Margaret, for the great marketing there. I appreciate it. Yeah, the one-on-ones are awesome. I love it. It's my favorite way for teaching. Dale, I make you look forward to Wednesdays. That's awesome. That's great. It was a great hump day treat. Wednesday nights remind me of the State Farm commercial where the guy is on the phone with Jake and his wife doesn't believe him. That's great. I've seen that commercial. That's a great analogy. That's awesome. Janelle, thank you. I appreciate you being here. And Ellen, too. Thank you, everybody. And good luck practicing this meditation. Try to do it a little bit and see how it goes. Remember, becoming familiar with something is all about building a routine, right? So we want to try to do this, even if it's like for 30 seconds in the morning. Doesn't matter. Routine, right? And I will catch you guys next week. We're going to talk about the thing Dell wants to talk about, activity-based meditation. Okay? Take care.